Welcome to the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast from Never Too Late Cafe. I'm your host, Laura Womack. Each week, we sit down for a chat with someone just like you, someone who had an idea, a passion, a dream, or sometimes just a thought, and planted that seed, watched it grow into something they wanted to share with the world. If you have an idea for a topic or someone that would be a guest for the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, where you can join our Never Too Late Cafe Facebook group. We'd love to hear from you. And I have a very special guest with me today, and that is Austin Timberlake. Welcome, Austin.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So, where are you currently living?
I currently live in Greenup County in South Portsmouth, Kentucky.
Okay. Is that where you're from originally?
Yep, I live right next door to where I grew up.
Oh, that's cool. So let's just get into your story about what your art form is and take it away.
Professionally, I'm a tattoo artist. I own Snake Oil Tattoo in South Shore, Kentucky with my wife, Janae Timberlake. We're also both painters, illustrators, pretty much most kinds of art.
That I did not know. I only knew about the tattoo business. Well, that's real interesting. So when did you get started? And let's go piece by piece. When did you start your tattoo business and start doing tattoos?
I started tattooing in 2005. I graduated high school in 2004 and did it shortly after that. So while we opened our shop in December of 2017.
So you've been doing it long before you opened your shop.
Yeah, I've worked all over the place. I started in Portsmouth and then kind of circled around and worked at a bunch of different shops. I worked in Cincinnati, Smoky Mountains, Nashville, Michigan. I've done tattoo conventions and stuff all over the country.
Oh my gosh. So you have originally you started out doing tattooing in other shops then?
Yes.
So what made you decide to open up your own?
It was always kind of in the plan to do it. We didn't necessarily know we were going to do it in South Shore. We recently left Nashville and we're kind of in a transitional period and came across the building our shop is in, and it was just a nice opportunity, and it all just kind of snowballed, and now we're here.
Well, just the timing is such that people are really into this now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's very popular right now.
So from what I gather, there can be people that do sort of clip art sort of tattoos, and then those that design them, and it's very custom. So which type do you do, or do you do both?
I design everything from custom, from scratch.
Wow.
So if you want to get a tattoo from me, I will design it for you to fit you and become part of you, really.
So that must mean, does someone bring in a picture or an idea and you interview them, sort of?
Yeah, in ways. I get a lot of people, they give me a lot of artistic freedom to do kind of my thing. But we'll go over an idea and they'll give me kind of the feel of what they want. And sometimes they'll send me pictures of like artwork or tattoos. We can kind of go from there and I'll design it for them.
I know that on the internet, your ratings are quite good on what you do. And so that must feel good as well.
Oh yeah. It's definitely a journey to get good at tattooing.
Mm. So like a reputation.
Yeah, I just enjoy, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your other art. You said other visual art that you do. Both you and your wife do a visual art as well.
Yeah, we both paint pretty often. We um
Do you use oils or
yeah,
pastels or
I use
medium?
acrylic and liquid acrylic mainly. Sometimes I use ink.
Oh, do you share that out, or is it just something you keep at home as a hobby, or do you do shows or presentations or anything like that, or custom?
I I really don't have a lot of time to do custom or shows anymore. Tattooing takes most of my time, but when I do paint, I usually do it just for myself. I have a lot of my own artwork hanging up at our tattoo shop and stuff like that. Janae sells her stuff. She's does a lot of like oil paints of like portraits and pet portraits and stuff like that.
Oh, now that I wasn't aware of at all. And you said illustrations. Um, has that led to doing any sort of book illustrations, or what sort of illustrations? Posters,
I've
social
done
media?
like event flyers and stuff like that a few times. It's mainly just translates over to tattooing. I am working on illustrating a coloring book I've been working on for about a year and a half.
So it's your book,
Yes.
your coloring book. Awesome. So, what got you into doing art itself? You do it in several different mediums, but how did you begin?
I've been making art since I was a little kid. My mom's an artist. She's always done like when we were kids, she would draw, she would do like craft stuff and craft fairs. Um, so she was always very artistic and supportive on it.
So she was obviously an influence. Were there any other influences in your life to want to do the oils or the illustrations, or especially tattoos?
I've, as far as tattoos and that kind of stuff, probably just I don't know. They always kind of stood out to me.
Hmm.
It's kind of rebellious when I got into it. It's not so much anymore, but
Well, the way that you do it with having it very custom. So I know some artists that do custom work, and it's
Mhm.
not for everyone because there's a level of, pleasing the customer. Does
Yeah,
that ever come into play? Like, oh, makes me nervous that I'm going to please this person with what I'm doing.
there's always that. I mean, it's such a permanent thing.
Oh,
Like you're changing what you do on, like you're changing someone's body forever. So there's a big responsibility in it. But yeah, there's always that fear that they're not going to like it. It doesn't really come up too much though.
and it's there.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh-oh. Or you spelled my wife's name wrong.
yeah. That that doesn't
So,
really.
do you have any stories about tattoos that went wrong?
Uh, Not really. I mean, I'm sure everybody's got their horror stories, but
So, with that, you had to do a lot of investigating, I'm sure, in practices, health practices, what's safe, and different techniques. So, um, how did that journey come about? Because it's not like putting a painting out there necessarily. It's more in depth because it is, an instrument and that sort of thing. So,
um, well, I started out. I took an apprenticeship uh, kind of teaches you the basics, sterilization and cleaning, and just how to apply a tattoo. Um, I took bloodborne pathogens classes. I've taken all kinds of like health classes and stuff to like sanitation and not spreading disease and doing everything as clean and upgraded as possible.
Mm. So, how did COVID affect your business? Because a lot of things were totally shut down, but you're probably a smaller, one-on-one versus like,
Yeah. COVID started out, it closed us down for a couple months. And then we were just had to kind of change the way everything was done. We couldn't have people coming in and out of the shop. We had to do like the mask thing and all that for what seemed like forever.
mm,
We were really fortunate. Our landlord was very uh giving with us in that time, was really supportive. But as far as COVID, once everything came back, everybody was getting all their like stimulus checks and everything, and kind of was a booming period for tattooing for about the last 3 years or so.
they were waiting.
Yeah,
Well, you
it
probably
seems
had
like,
people you had to cancel,
oh yeah, it took, because we stay booked out at least a couple months normally. So when that happened, we were just playing catch up for the first 2 months when it came back, and then on top of that, people were trying to get in, so kind of kept stacking up.
I never would have thought about the stimulus checks, but yeah, that was like, if I ever had a question about doing this or not, I've got some new money.
Yeah, and plus a lot of people lost a lot during COVID and the last few years. And when you get a tattoo, nobody can take it away from you. It's something that you take with you forever. It's
I
not like
never,
a pair of shoes or a car.
yeah, I never thought about that.
Like it's
So,
something you control.
mhm. um, during the time that you're working on someone, I'm just thinking of the professions where there's a lot of, like hairdressers, bartenders, people get stories when they're sitting there with people. Uh, do you have a lot of that interaction where you get to really know people? They might tell you their life story.
Oh yeah, I know everybody's secrets.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, people get very open with you. And it's a very vulnerable situation to be in. So people get very open with you.
Mm.
It's actually it's a really interesting part of the job. You get to really, especially when you do larger scale pieces like sleeves or back pieces or these like multiple session pieces, you really get to know these people and they become friends of yours. I've been doing it so long. I've tattooed their parents and kids and
Oh my gosh.
their families.
Do you offer group rates?
Would not, no.
Um, so when I'm just thinking of, and I'll be honest, I've never had a tattoo. Um, I guess I just never went that path. I'm not against them or anything. It's just, and I have ears pierced, but I was like in high school. I mean, I was like almost out of high school before I even got my ears pierced. So I
Yeah.
was different. So when someone comes and they have an idea, um, that interaction of, well, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? That must be a real creative high when someone gets what you have in mind. They're like, oh, I never thought of that. So how does that make you feel like when
it must be an aha of some sort, but how does it happen when they're not sure and you start leading them and all that sort of thing, and you get to the point where you've got it?
Oh, I find it mind blowing every day that people come to me with their ideas and I'm able to come up with what's exactly in their mind without them even really knowing what's in their mind sometimes. Um, it's very flattering. But yeah, it's definitely interesting, really. It's people try to tell their stories through it, so it's just another way of getting to know people.
I never thought, I love story. That's obviously why I do what I do, but I never thought about the fact that that was a story. It was a,
Oh yeah, it's definitely. I mean, even if it's a tattoo, like say you got tattooed when you were 18, and it's like not even remotely who you are anymore, but you can look back on it and it's that part of your life. It's something you've taken with you and you'll carry it with you. You can look back on it and it brings you exactly back to that point of what you're doing. A lot of people remember who they were with, what the music was, the sounds, the smells, all that kind of stuff, what their mindset was. If they were happy, if they were sad, if they were going through something.
I never thought of that. Um, how much it's a multi-sensory memory.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Do you ever have people that have asked, can you fix an old one? I've heard that sometimes people's bodies change or just growth in general. So have
Yeah.
you altered any before?
Oh, I cover and redo tattoos all the time. Yeah.
That's interesting. So, um, well, I know you put them on. Have you ever had to? I know there's a process of removal.
Oh, yeah, I don't mess with that. That's doctor stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You gotta go get that lasered off.
But you do alter them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can completely cover some tattoos. Some you can try to save.
Hmm.
Some you just polish. But
That's an
there's something
interest.
to a tattoo that's like settled in and aged and you've had it for 10 years and it looks like it's like part of you. It's just your skin at that point.
So when you said the term polished, describe how that would be on an older, I mean, how does that
Sometimes
work?
especially with older inks and stuff, things have changed with that sense and pigments are different, tools are different. So sometimes somebody'd have an older tattoo that they still love the tattoo, but the colors could be punched up and brightened, or the blacks could be blacker, or the lines could be cleaned up a little bit, and you can just go through and give it a fresh coat.
Oh, I never would have thought of that. That is very interesting. So, what was your most unusual request?
I I don't know. Uh, I get a lot of unusual requests.
Like on a regular basis?
Yeah, I do a lot of interesting tattoos.
I see.
People are very creative. Um, I still find it unusual that people want to get like names and stuff like that, like girlfriend names or boyfriend names.
Knowing that the circumstances can someday change.
Oh yeah, they last longer than most relationships. So I find those requests to still be kind of odd,
Mm.
but it's 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 your thing.
Where they're at the time.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people that are into sort of the comics, the superhero thing. Is that
Yeah.
done a lot? Marvel, whatever is the latest, or Star Trek, the Timeless, or
Oh
any
yeah.
of those.
People, comic book tattoos and like Star Wars and like popular movies will always be a big like design choice for people. It's kind of like modern uh like fairy tales or whatnot for people.
Mm.
I guess it's like getting the Incredible Hulk is kind of like getting a dragon for some people.
Oh, yeah.
There's a big story, there's a mythology to it.
Mm. Um, I'm wondering, do you have like displays in your, like if someone says, I'm not really for sure, do you have like a book, samples on the wall or displays or something that you can show people?
I have tons of pre-drawn images that I've drawn that are ready to be tattooed. I have uh flash books, which are pre-drawn designs that um are good for inspiration. Then I have tons of reference books. I have tons of uh tattoo related books that have images in them. Some designs that go back hundreds of years or 100 years.
You had mentioned an internship. Um, how did that come about?
Uh, I was going to school for art up around Cincinnati, and it wasn't really for me. So I was getting tattooed by a guy in Portsmouth. His name was Glenn Darby, and I brought a bunch of my like designs in and showed him. He offered me an apprenticeship, and it was mainly answering phones, cleaning, stuff like that, until kind of learned the basics, and then you start doing small stuff. You can kind of dip your toe in it.
You know, I wouldn't have thought that a apprenticeship would start out sort of custodial, administrative. Um, but
If you
it's a
can't
good way to learn if someone's really interested, because there's all aspects to that with a business.
Oh yeah, you can't clean a toilet, you can't tattoo.
That might be a quote that people remember. Um, so
I
you
mean, if
talk
you can't
about,
keep something, if you can't keep your bathroom clean, how are you going to keep your like tattoo station clean? How are people going to know that you're clean? You know?
Mm. So your wife, does she also do tattoos?
She does not. She when we met, she was a body piercer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she stays home with our daughter now. She does a lot of the um behind the scenes stuff for the shop, the internet stuff and all that, answering messages, making appointments, stuff like that.
You know, that's a good way to think about running a business. Is I know many people that are creative that the business side is what drains them because then they don't have time to do their creating.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Um,
It's
so you
definitely a balance too.
so you found what works for you.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we work together very well.
so tell me about some of your travels. You said all across the country. What kind of experiences have you had with your travels?
Uh, I've met a lot of really nice people. I've tattooed really cool people all over, everywhere. A lot of them have come here and gotten tattoos from different cities that we've been at. There was a little group of people I travel around with for a minute, and we would do conventions mainly on the East Coast, um, Pennsylvania, like Chicago, places like that.
So conventions, are they showing like new techniques, or did you have a booth, or what sort of thing did the convention have?
Yeah, you set up a booth and you do tattoos. You bring your kind of sell yourself. Kind of, it's a big show, really. There's people selling stuff. There's sideshow performances. It's just kind of a big meeting of like-minded people doing. But yeah, there'll be different suppliers there, aftercares, and a lot of the variations of the same thing.
Aftercare?
Yeah, like different like lotions and stuff for tattoos,
Oh,
like for the healing process and beyond.
so you had a stint in Nashville?
Yeah, I was there for maybe a year and a half. I think maybe a year.
How is that different than where you're at located now?
It is the complete opposite. South Shore is not a big town by any stretch of the word. And when I was in Nashville, I was right in the busiest part of town in a very popular shop. I kind of wanted to come back and do the more quiet version.
Mm. Did you see anyone that was an up and coming or a famous person when you were in Nashville?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Really?
People walking around. I tattooed right off Broadway. It's like not off Broadway, is the street beside Broadway. It was still like the touristy area.
Mm-hmm.
One day, Garth Brooks was just doing a show outside.
Outside the shop there.
Yeah, there would always be big shows out in the streets.
Very interesting. So this podcast is called the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast. So that quote means something different to everyone. So what does it mean to you?
Um, I've always felt that this area is very overlooked as far as the arts and culture, which is insane to me because there's such a deep, rich culture in Appalachia.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came time to really wanting to plant what we were gonna, like our shop and what we wanted to do, like our vision for everything, I really liked how quiet it is here and how you can express what you want to do. And there's an audience that appreciates it. Sorry, I'm getting off course here. I would rather add something to our community than take away from it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to show that you can be whatever you want here. You don't have to leave. You don't have to go hunt for something like grass is greener kind of thing.
Mm.
it sounds more like a tangent than going on to answer your question. Uh,
All right. So what words of wisdom would you have to give to someone that wants to do what you're doing? And you have several art forms.
Words of wisdom: draw. Just draw a lot. Make art. No matter what you're doing, just make art. Keep doing it.
Mm,
When you think you're at the top of your game, you're probably not. So keep going.
that's a good thought too.
Like,
So,
there's somebody going to be better than you that's like right behind you.
mm, so who does your tattoos?
Oh, I get tattooed by a lot of people. Most of my friends are tattoo artists. Um, I have a couple local people I'm pretty good friends with. Ron Stevens owns a shop in Portsmouth. Does some tattoos on me. Yeah, there's still a lot of good tattooers in this area.
Mm. So, what's next for you? Do you have plans on the horizon of doing something different?
We recent, recently purchased our building that our shop is in. So we will probably expand a little bit with it. Maybe bring in another artist. And just keep growing it. Just keep doing our thing, I guess.
Mm. So, well, it has been very good talking to you, Austin. Like I said, I've never talked to a tattoo artist before, so this has been very unique. And I appreciate your time, and we'll definitely include any of your webpage and your contact information in our show notes. So,
Well, thank you for having me.
bye.
So, as our time comes to a close, remember to keep creating, keep sharing, and keep supporting each other. And remember to bloom where you're planted. Bye for now.